Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the International Women's Day webinar series celebrating women's achievements. My name is Ruth Wallace. I'm the Dean of the College of Indigenous Futures, Arts and Society, the Dean of the College of Education and the Director of the Northern Institute here at Charles Darwin University. We're really pleased to see you all here, and I'd like to acknowledge that today we are meeting on Larrakia and First Nations lands, the Kaurna people as well, for where Isobel is. We acknowledge that there are all those traditional owners of those places who are here past, present, future, that lead all of our work, and all the places that you're dialing in from today. I also want to acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are joining us online. So today we have got the fabulous Isobel Marshall to speak about her work, and I'll introduce her in a minute. But just to think about housekeeping, just let you know that there will be a Q&A session at the end. Please use the Q&A tab at the bottom of the screen to put up your questions, and we'll work through those at the end of this presentation. Just that we are working through a difficult week, obviously, for a lot of women. It's been a hard week. It's been a very emotional week. And I think it's also been a week of great strength and young women showing us the way forward. So I was absolutely ecstatic that we could get the Young Australian of the Year to come and speak to us today. So welcome, Isobel. So at 18 years of age, Isobel Marshall co-founded TABOO with school friend Eloise Hall to help women around the world by breaking down stigma around menstruation and providing greater access to hygiene products. Isobel and business partner Eloise crowdfunded $56,000 to launch their range of products in August 2019. TABOO sells high-quality, ethically sourced organic cotton pads and tampons to an Australian market, with 100% of the net profits going to One Girls, a charity providing education programs for girls and women in Sierra Leone and Uganda. Locally, Isobel and TABOO have partnered with Vinnie's Women's Crisis Centre, providing free access to pads and tampons for women who require emergency accommodation in South Australia. And recognising period poverty is not just a big city issue, they also support the MPY Women's Council in Central Australia. On top of that, in her spare time, Isobel is also a full-time student at the University of Adelaide, where she's studying a Bachelor of Medicine, MBBS, and a Bachelor of Surgery. You're an inspiration to us all, and it's wonderful to have you here to lift us in a difficult week and to hear about your work. And I'll hand over to you, Isobel. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Ruth, and everyone who's listening. Yeah, it's a real privilege to be here. First of all, just wanted to make a little correction. This year, I'm actually, I've deferred my studies. So I deferred 4th year of medicine. It was all a little bit too much. So here we are focusing on TABOO, which is very exciting. Yeah, so Ruth, you did such a great explanation of TABOO in general. I will revisit it just to clear up. It's a funny new model of doing business. So I just want to make sure it's really clear, and then we'll launch into why we started TABOO, a bit about the journey, about the passion that kind of runs TABOO, as well as how we as a team at TABOO choose to challenge every day through the work that we do. So I'm just going to share my screen here. Awesome. So as discussed previously, we are a brand of organic cotton pads and tampons. We sell to customers in Australia through our website, through a subscription model, so that people can receive our pads and tampons to their door every month along with their period. And we also sell with some retail chains, specifically in South Australia, but we hope to really branch out around the country this year specifically. So we sell our products, but the big part about TABOO, the reason we exist, is because we have dedicated 100% of our net profits to eradicating period poverty around the world. And we do that by our partnership with our charity organisation, One Girl. I'll go through the amazing work that One Girl does in a moment, but that's not the only way we address period poverty. We also have a local Australian period poverty program, as well as a lot of energy and business activity spent on advocacy and challenging menstrual stigma that surrounds and really fuels period poverty in all sorts of areas of the world. So here's our mission. Our mission is to ensure that all people over the globe have access to the right menstrual hygiene products, so the practical equipment they need to deal with their period and keep going to school and keep taking part in normal life, and the appropriate education to deal with their period. So that educational part is really, really key, because in a lot of places around the world, because of that stigma, because of the lack of understanding, and because of a lack of general education, a lot of girls and women don't understand much about their period. They don't even know to expect a period until they start bleeding themselves, which is a very, very scary position to be in. And then, of course, they're not educated to know how to safely use products that are hygienic, how to care for their body, how to avoid infection or complications. So education is a huge part of what we do at TABOO and a huge priority of ours, as well as educating men and boys about periods and about the reason they exist, what it means for a woman's body when they're menstruating, and how powerful the process is. And that's directly to address that menstrual stigma as well. So period poverty, I've thrown that word around a bit already, and not everyone knows exactly what period poverty means. It's quite a new term. Period poverty, in its most, I guess, literal sense, describes a situation where a person who is unable to afford period products like pads or tampons has to go through their period without the right products and might use alternatives instead, or might use no product and have to sit out from school, from work, from social interactions during the week that they're menstruating, which, as you can imagine, is every month and is a huge portion of time, and totally debilitating. So when a young woman, and I'm speaking specifically from a developing country perspective, because this is where most of our mission work focuses on, and this is why we started TABOO, because we learnt that when a woman has access to period products, there's actually not a logo for pads on PowerPoint, which speaks to the lack of resources and time and understanding. But there's toilet paper, which is actually what a lot of people use. But let's just consider this as when a young girl has access to pads, she's able to continue going to school, which means she's able to eventually graduate, more likely to be employed and more likely to be financially independent, which means she's breaking the poverty cycle for her. And potentially, as the reports say, when a woman comes out of poverty, there's a high chance that she's going to pull her whole family out of poverty. On the flip side, if a young girl doesn't have access to the right product and the right education to deal with their period, they'll often have to drop out of school as soon as they get their period. So that is approximately, at the moment, 30% of girls in developing countries drop out of school as soon as they get their period. Usually people get their period from 10 to 13 years old. So if you can imagine someone dropping out of school at that age, that's not a solid foundation of education to keep them going and employed and continue on that other cycle that I was talking about. So generally, a young person will then get married at a very young age, become pregnant at a very young age, therefore have dependents in a position where they're not independent themselves. They have children, and the poverty cycle continues for the woman and generally her family as well. So these are sort of the facts and the ideas that Eloise and I came across when we were in year 12 in 2016. The other thing that we came across during that period of time was this concept of social enterprises. So this concept of businesses that function as a normal business that might offer general products and services that are out there already, that have high demand in countries like Australia, but then taking advantage of that market and flipping the profits so that they can fund projects that are of a related cause. You may know there's a burrito company called Zambreros. I don't know if you guys have Zambreros in NT, but Zambreros is a social enterprise in that with every burrito it sells, it will give a meal to someone who needs it. So social enterprises can look very different in different contexts, selling different things and creating change in different ways. But in the very, very general sense, a social enterprise is just a business that is directed by their social cause. So when Eloise and I learnt a lot about the facts surrounding menstrual health care around the world and what that means for the futures of millions and millions of young girls' lives, we also came across the fact that Australians spend generally $300 million a year on menstrual health care products. So that is a huge market. And we were considering these two groups of people. We were considering all the money that is already poured into this market every year. And we were considering all the women who are disadvantaged because of their period. And we thought, why don't we apply that social enterprise model, sell our own brand of pads and tampons? I've got some here. These are our pads. Sell our pads and commit 100% of our net profits to eradicating period poverty. So at this point, we thought, okay, this is an idea that we love. We've got a lot of passion for it, but let's see how other people respond to it. So we entered some local competitions in our city of Unley in Adelaide, and also a competition through the uni in Adelaide. And we were so stoked to win these competitions. We were provided with some small seed funding. We were provided with plenty of mentorship opportunities. And we were provided with a lot of encouragement to know that, okay, wow, people are also quite excited about this idea. And there's already quite a community, like quite an amazing community growing around this concept of taboo. So we started sharing our idea on social media. We decided to take a gap year and commit our year to taboo. So we spent hours and hours having coffees with all sorts of people from different areas, marketing, accounting, legal, other entrepreneurs. And that was purely because we had no experience whatsoever. I was trying to get into medicine, so I was studying all the sciences. Eloise was doing a lot of the arts. And we had no training in business whatsoever. So we really relied upon the mentorship of a lot of different people around us. So we took that gap year, and by the end of the year, we had made an incredible relationship with a manufacturer of pads and tampons in Barcelona, of all places, just out of Barcelona in Spain. So we got a quote from them. It was a $48,000 quote to get our own brand of pads and tampons, the minimum order quantity. And that was a lot for us. We only probably had $70 in our bank accounts combined. So that was a big mountain to look forward to. So we hosted a crowdfunding campaign. By this point, we had quite a community that had grown around our idea. And so we turned to them and we said, look, if you guys think that this can happen, if you want to see it happen, we need to raise at least $48,000 in the next 2 months. So that was the time frame that we had. And this was over Christmas in 2017. And we were absolutely blown away by the support of our community, in that by the end of those 2 months, we had raised $56,000 and had told Spain, we're going to send you the money soon, and this is what we would like from you. So then we had developed this product, we'd developed this community that would hopefully then become our customers and advocates. And we started researching as to who should be our charity partner and how should we actually see the mission lived out after we've got this product. So we did our own, we did some research just online. We came across an incredible organization called One Girl, and I'll explain what they do in a moment. But we also ended up going to Kenya and India in 2018 to do our own ground research. We shadowed some organizations that do work in this area. One particular highlight was going to rural Kenya in Masai Mara areas with this organization who had told us, okay, you're going to be handing out pads to these girls in the schools here, and you're also going to be teaching them about how to use them. So at this point we were, I think, 20 years old and standing in front of these crowds of young, amazing young Kenyan women from rural Kenya. And they had a completely different background to us, completely different lifestyle. But we were able to connect with them through this amazing shared experience of going through our periods as young people. And so we handed out these products at which the young girls would start laughing and throwing them up in the air, and they were so excited because to them a little pack of pads meant freedom for another month. It meant that they would be able to walk to school with no fear that they'd bleed out onto their dresses. It meant that they would be able to go to school at all. It also meant that they had a product that meant they could look after themselves in a really dignified manner during their period, which is what everyone deserves to feel. Especially when periods suck in themselves. They're painful and they're messy and they're dirty and they're hard to keep on top of. The least that someone deserves is a dignified pad to soak up that blood. So they were absolutely stoked with this product. We were absolutely stoked to be there and teaching them how to use the pads. They didn't even know how to put them in their undies because they had spent all of their menstrual history just using probably rags from the kitchen, which is so unhygienic in itself, especially because a lot of these girls don't have access to clean water and appropriate soap to wash these materials and these rippings properly between periods. So at this point, we got home having been absolutely energized by our experience in Kenya, and also exhausted, but in a weird way energized. And India as well. India was a very different experience. There was so much menstrual stigma. A lot of the women had access to product or their equivalent, and a lot of them felt supported, but there was a real shame around periods. Even the women didn't like talking about it to us. And there was a real sense of not wanting to even find a solution because there just did not want to be any discussion around it. Things are changing, and we're hearing great things happening in India at the moment around menstrual health care. But yeah, it just went to show us that period poverty looks really different in different areas of the world. So then we had our product and we had our charity partnership. At this point, we had committed to work with One Girl. And so we launched our product in 2019 in August with an amazing team of volunteers. We now have 10 volunteers, and we're all volunteers actually, and we work together so well. We love working together. Everyone has amazing skill sets. So yes, this is our product. One Girl, I think I've got a Q&A here. How did the girls dispose? Yes. Netta, that is a really good question. Netta has asked, how did the girls dispose of the used pads and tampons? I imagine they don't have rubbish collection like we do. That's a really, really good question. And that's one of the questions we asked this organisation that we were shadowing at the time. And we were concerned about the sustainability of their project. Obviously, it was an incredible experience for us to go and educate these young people and provide them with pads. But we were also very, very aware that we were just coming in as white people, telling them what we knew from our perspective and giving them product that would last them a month, and not even considering things like the rubbish collection, which is a huge issue. And that's why we ended up choosing to go with One Girl. We were so grateful for that experience in Kenya, but a lot of the organizations that we did come across, they hadn't considered things like that, and that's why we chose not to partner with them. One Girl, through their Launchpad program, I'll quickly describe what's happening here. So One Girl has identified a lot of the main factors that stop girls from going to school in Sierra Leone and Uganda, and the main factors that stop women from being employed in those areas as well. So they've identified those factors, and they've created programs around each of those factors that allow a woman to stay in school or stay in work. So they've got these scholarship programs for schools, they've got microfinance businesses that they set the women up, and there's a lot of community involvement in that, which is fantastic because it's very culturally sensitive and done in a way that the community will respond to in the most appropriate manner. And then their school awesomisation program is all about making sure that schools have the right toilet facilities. And that goes hand in hand with their Launchpad program. So the Launchpad program is the program we're particularly interested in. they've actually combined a lot of factors here. They've created microfinance business models where a woman, usually an older, respected woman in the community, will distribute pads from this microfinance model. They'll distribute pads. They'll also share educational resources with both the men and the women, and the boys and the girls in the community, and that's to address the menstrual stigma straight up. So there's people employed through that program, there's people educated. They also use pads that are biodegradable to address that waste issue. And through that model, everyone, it's not just, you know, people from Australia or America shoving product like in communities, not using their resources, not using their existing connections or cultural intricacies that aren't considered. So it's fully considered, it's so thorough, and we love One Girl for that. Are there any other questions? We'll do some Q&As after. I'm just going to quickly skip to period poverty in Australia. So we started TABOO with this global perspective in mind, but it wasn't long before we realised that period poverty absolutely exists in Australia too. And the reason we found that out was because as we started growing our business, we started having a lot of groups contact us, people like teachers, nurses, a crisis care facility in our city that looks after women fleeing from domestic violence. And these groups were contacting us and saying, do you have any capacity to support us? We have a lot of girls or women use our services that don't have access to product, and they suffer from period poverty. And so we developed this local program, this sort of pay it forward program to address, to make sure that these groups had access to product. We realised that a lot of people who wanted to help and be involved with TABOO actually don't need our product for themselves, perhaps postmenopausal women, perhaps people that are on contraception and don't bleed anymore, men. So there's a lot of groups of people that wanted to help. So we decided to give them the option to subscribe to our product, but it's on behalf of a woman in Australia who needs it. And we gather all the product that's donated every month, and then we distribute it to our partners around Australia, schools, medical facilities, crisis care centre, NPY Women's Council. And that's an incredible program that we love, and it's actually it's been really successful to date. People love it, and we love that they love it. There's also been a lot of state government support that has been announced recently over the last, really few months. South Australia announced that, that's where I'm from, that they would fund 3 years of free sanitary products in state schools, which was hugely exciting, particularly considering that our Commissioner for Children and Young People has been very, very interested in this issue, and we've been working alongside her. She has been identifying the key factors stopping girls and boys from going to school, and periods kept coming up and up. So she kept bringing it to the state government, and they've responded, which is really, really exciting. 2 points that I'd make here that are from, because I know that NT and New South Wales and Victoria have all announced similar things. So it's certainly spreading across Australia, which is really, really exciting. 2 things that we're really concerned about is that this program would kind of mean that discussion around periods is avoided, and that schools will think, oh, okay, the girls can just go to their bathrooms and have the product there. They don't need it. They don't need a conversation around it. But we're really keen that educational programs will be combined with this access to free product. And we do think that periods and menstrual health care is going to be received and taught very differently in different schools around the country based on the demographics, based on a whole range of factors. And so we think it really needs to be school driven, this initiative. Obviously, the government will fund the products, but the way it's distributed and the education around it really needs to be school driven. Yeah, I think that's all from me. Yeah, I am so grateful for this amazing platform. One thing that the awards has really encouraged us through is because we've got this amazing national platform now to share this message. And I've actually forgotten, sorry, Ruth, I keep banging on now, but I forgot to mention that the goal of our team in terms of choosing to challenge is choosing to challenge the menstrual stigma that has driven a lot of this period poverty. Menstrual stigma and the discomfort around conversations surrounding menstruation is the reason that policymakers, leaders, communities, whole societies don't spend enough time talking and discussing this very biological, very natural, very necessary biological process that half of our population goes through and needs resources for and needs time for. Yet because of so much stigma and misunderstanding, those conversations haven't been had. So now our work at talking about it every day and getting people to talk about it as well and ask questions and share their experiences is starting to pay off, and we're so excited that the way we're choosing to challenge that every day is becoming something that more and more people are choosing to challenge every day as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, Isobel. That was very inspirational. It reminds me, I was in the US a few years ago in a small town, and they had a group called the Fairy Godmothers. And it was a way for people to be able to support causes that would make a difference, the small things that people don't notice. But make a huge difference. And they were actually talking about very similar issues. They're also talking about bras as another one that is a deal breaker for being able to access education. So I think you've identified something that makes a complete difference and is a barrier that's not often seen, and as you say, is many people feel uncomfortable to talk about. So congratulations to both of you and what you've achieved. I think everyone's going to ask now, how do we get behind you and how do we support you, and what made a difference on the journey? What was the things that the quiet moment or the small thing that somebody did that helped support your journey to this point?
I think what's blown us away the most is the level of engagement and willingness to help us as young and inexperienced people in this area. From the moment we shared our idea, people were looking for ways that they could share their experience and their skill set. And I don't know why, because not every business experiences that. I think it's because this is a conversation that really intrigues people when it's approached in the right way. I, for one, know that a lot of the guys that I talk to about periods to, at first I go, oh, periods, don't know much about that, a bit uncomfortable. But as soon as you start just creating a really comfortable space for them, a lot of them are very, very intrigued about, just the practical questions. Like, oh, so I've never had a period before. Does it continuously drip? Like, how many days does that last for? Well, and all these questions that once they understand what it's like, they can start to put themselves in the shoes of someone who is experiencing that but doesn't have the support that they need. And that really, drives a really emotional response, which, has meant is the same response that keeps driving us as the core team of 10 to do what we do. It's the same, drive that a lot of our ambassadors and other volunteers get on board through. And exactly.
Great. Now, this leads to the next question, which is how do we get on board? So lots of people are asking, how much do they cost? How do we subscribe? How do we get involved and support your fabulous work?
So they are an organic cotton product, so they are inherently a little bit more expensive than synthetic products. But alongside other organic cotton products, they're absolutely competitive. This is a box of 10, and they are worth $6.90. And our box of tampons has 18 in the packet, and they are $5.90. So you'll find that they're pretty on par with other brands. Obviously, the main point of difference being that no one is taking dividends from the profits that's made from this product, and that's directly being invested into our mission. But Yes, so that's our product. We sell a subscription online. You'll find at the moment that you can also just buy a once-off purchase just to try the product out. We're going to change our website model quite soon to just offer subscriptions, but it'll be a very easy process to cancel, to pause it, to change it, so that you could just get one order and then cancel it, and that's fine. Otherwise, we sell them in OTRs and national pharmacies around South Australia. So if anyone is in SA, you'll be able to find them there. But yeah, we're hoping to branch out this year.
Fantastic. And does that mean that you'd be able to subscribe for someone or for a school or for a group or something like that?
Yeah, so there's an option on the subscription page that says something like, subscribe on behalf of someone who needs it. You tick that box, and then whatever you've selected, whether it be 3 packs of pads every month or 3 packs of pads every 3 months, you will that will come through to us, and we'll put that aside, and it will be part of our local period poverty program.
That's fantastic. We always try with our Women's Day events to do something that we can then donate and support somebody else. We always want to pay it forward. So the idea of being able to do something like that, I think that's fantastic. There's another question here about how you've gone with donations. How much have you been able to donate so far?
Yeah, so we have, it's on our Instagram somewhere, a document that has a visual of all of I can pass that on. We've donated quite a few hundred packs of pads to various organisations through the local outreach program. With our net profits, we actually haven't made a profit yet, to be perfectly honest, and we're very upfront about that. We're a small business that is still in the growing phases. We've been selling our product for just over a year now, a year and 5 months now, and so we haven't hit that point yet. But we're in contact. We're in conversation with One Girl, our charity partner, yesterday, and we're looking forward, especially since the awards and since some new retailers have come on board, we're really looking forward to making that first donation quite soon. Otherwise, in terms of our general mission to eradicate period poverty, a lot of that involves our education programs as well. So we've been able to reach, I think, over 60 schools now, going to present at schools around SA, a few interstate as well. And those conversations always talk about the state of global menstrual health care, the state of how to look after yourself on your period, how to start up a business. That one's not specifically menstrual healthcare driven, but those sorts of education. We're developing an educational handbook at the moment, and other resources for girls and boys from all sorts of demographics.
That's a significant achievement in the year we've just had. I'm sure there's many businesses who couldn't say they've been able to grow and be in a position to be turning a profit over this time. It's been a rough time, particularly to something that's got an international focus. Right, now let us make sure that we're all following you. So can you take us through all of your social media sites and all the things that you'd like us to go and click on?
Absolutely. So our website is down on the bottom of the screen. We are tabooau.co. You can find contact details there if you'd like to, if you have any ideas, if you have any questions, if you'd like to get involved. So you can either get in contact through there, or we have a very active Instagram account and Facebook account. Both accounts are titled Taboo Sanitary Products. And that's where we kind of do daily updates. We love that community. It's a very active community. But yes, that's all I can really think of right now.
No, that's great. And I think that if we can all get behind that community that's starting, that's got going, that spreads across the country and gets more people feeling that they've got a way to have a positive response and to help others. I think that's what everyone's looking for, particularly in these times. And we just congratulate you on your achievement, the national recognition. The work that you and Eloise have done is just amazing, and we're all inspired by it. To let people know, you will find out that there is on our website, we'll put a recording of the presentation. So when you go and tell everyone about the fabulous work that Isobel and TABOO are doing, you'll be able to come to the Northern Institute website, and very soon we'll have a copy of the presentation. It has all of those links there. We'll share all of those again to encourage people to get involved. So thank you very much, Isobel, and have a wonderful, wonderful year. I know it's going to be very busy, and then we all look forward to celebrating your going back to school and to university and completing your qualifications. It's going to be a busy time. We want to thank everybody for joining the Northern Institute Celebrating Women's Achievements webinar for International Women's Day, or a couple of weeks as we've done it this time, which has worked fantastically. I really want to thank everyone who's made that possible. And just the very best for the future, Isobel. We'll all be watching and we're all behind you.
Thank you so much.